morning, everyone. James Hicks here, Hicks New Media, Infotainment News. Very special show today. I'm looking forward to this. I actually did not sleep very well last night because I was so anxious and excited to have this conversation. Very serious topic, but the young man that I'm going to bring on camera in a second is someone who has a message and has a story to tell. And I definitely implore all of you to listen and take heed, learn, and do whatever you need to do in your life to maybe make some adjustments and maybe make some and be aware. July, folks, is Sarcoma Awareness Month. My guest today has that diagnosis and has been fighting the hard fight since 2010. Sarcomas are rare. Some past research show that back in 2010, 2011, there are on average 20,000 cases of sarcoma worldwide. Compare that to the averages for breast, lung, colon, and other cancers, and that number is very low. However, the variations of sarcoma are vast. There are 70 plus different subtypes, and each one has their own issues. With that imbalance in number of cases compared to the other cancer forms, the research being done is, quite frankly, not where it needs to be. And that's just because, honestly, there's just not enough money to be made in treating and researching sarcoma. So the typical treatment options are primarily only those of chemotherapy and radiation. Since his first diagnosis back in 2010, Sonny has gone through a number of treatments. He's made some very conscious choices about what types of treatments he was going to participate in. We'll talk a little bit about that today. And soon he's going to be participating in a new trial cell therapy that essentially is a manipulation of his own immune cells. 2014 was a pretty stressful year for Sonny. After a few years of being declared NED, or no evidence of disease, he had a recurrence, which led to a number of corrective surgeries. This caused him to make the tough decision to formally retire after 23 years of service from the United States Air Force. Again, I encourage you to sit back and listen to this young man tell his story. This is my best friend's brother, so this means he's my brother. Ladies and gentlemen, Master Sergeant Sonny Burks. Sonny, how you doing, brother?
Well, I'm doing well. Thank you for that intro. I really appreciate your consideration for helping me tell the story.
Definitely, Ben. Definitely. I appreciate you wanting to tell your story, especially after everything you've gone through, everything you're about to go through, and to really clarify and explain from a person living with this condition, a person living with this diagnosis, what a day in the life is really about, as opposed to being talking head, someone who's not in your shoes, someone who's just reading or someone just writing about it. No, let's have the man who's literally there in the midst of this on it and talk and tell your story. So, but first and foremost, I guess I want to say, let's be clear that cancer doesn't define you, and so. For everyone who's watching who doesn't know who you are, tell everyone who Sonny Burks is.
Oh, man.
I put you on the spot. I told you I was going to put you on the spot with that first one. That's why I didn't give you what that one was.
You did. And I'll be honest, it's I guess who I am is just who I am.
So military man, 26 years. My dad was 26, but you were 23. So I think my dad is watching, I believe, as well from the Air Force. But tell us a little bit about your service in the military.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Tell me a little bit about what?
About your time in the service. Where you were stationed. Don't tell us anything classified, obviously, but tell us. I guess some of the places where you were stationed in the military.
Pretty simple, not a whole lot. Actually, McCord Air Force Base in Washington, here where I am now, is that was my first base.
Washington State.
Washington State, yes. And I worked ITNs there, From there, I went to New Mexico. I worked F-117As. That's the stealth bomber, if you didn't know, or stealth, actually a stealth fighter, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I went to Korea. Worked A-10s and F-16s there, and came back to the States. Worked at Hobart Field, Florida. Worked that's when I switched over to heavies. Worked C-17, not C-17, AC-130s. Those are the cargo gunships. And from there, throughout my whole career, I would come back to Washington to visit my wife's family, and we fell in love with Washington. We hated it initially, or at least I hated it, and but grew to love it. And so we decided to settle down here. And beautiful, bright, sunny day today. And this is where I retired. I spent my last 13 years here at McCord, and just really appreciate the area here. So that's in a nutshell. That's my Air Force career. I've been deployed to some places in the Middle East and stuff, and several deployments during my time here. But that's pretty much it.
You can't see him, but you can probably, I don't know if you could feel the smile from my dad coming through me. He's watching, because everything that you mentioned, his first part of his Air Force career was in field maintenance. So he was also working on the big heavies, as you call them, and doing mechanical work on those. So he's quite familiar with that, and I've grown up in that life as well. Thank you for your service, brother. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Oh, I'm mad I didn't mention. I forgot to mention when I here at McCord, when I came back, I worked C-17s, so which is one of my favorite aircraft. And
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Thank you for that, man. We have another gentleman on the line here who is the crazy brother. Well, I wouldn't say that, but let me bring on Eric Burks as well, because another Air Force military man. And we wanted this to be kind of a family dynamic, right? A family conversation to talk about the sensitive topic, but make it completely comfortable, make it completely open. So Eric, thank you for joining us as well.
You bet.
So Sonny, let's go back to 2010 and talk a little bit about the pooled growing muscle and the initial diagnosis. Give us some background on that.
Okay.
How everything kind of came to fruition and started for you.
All right. So this is one of the questions that I get, that people, I think, in general, who get a diagnosis of cancer get asked the most, and it's like, how did you find out? And for mine, it was interesting. So I was a maintenance guy on C-17s here at McCord, and but I ended up being an instructor, which is my favorite. That was my favorite job in the Air Force. And I was so one of my students actually is a 23-year-old kid, buff, just all muscle, challenged me during PT to a race. And so and I was, at the time I was 38, and I was like, well, why are you challenging a 38-year-old? But okay, I took the challenge, and I beat him. But the what I had to do to beat him was it was difficult. So we were just
you weren't gonna lose. You weren't gonna lose. Okay.
I wasn't gonna lose.
Right.
So and that's not the whole story, but I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
So he would tell it a little differently. But anyway, so I pushed myself so hard that I pulled my groin. So I knew that that's what it was. But when I went in to the I've been limping around for about a week, and so I went into the hospital, and they did what they do. They gave me some ibuprofen and told me to if it comes back, or if you continue having it for a certain amount of time, go ahead and come back. So I continued to have the pain. It got a little bit better because the groin it got some relief. It healed, but I was still having some other pain. I thought it was associated with it. Since I went in about a month and a half later, they said, okay, well, let's give you an MRI. Did the MRI, and then they showed they saw something there. So just with the initial look of it, it looked like it was just a cyst. And of course, I asked the question, well, could it be cancer? And they said no, there's no way. This is definitely a fluid-filled sac because of the way it looked. And so I went another month and a half to a couple of months, where they scheduled me for the surgery to get it removed. So while I'm on this subject, one of the questions that one of my friends on Facebook asked was, how did the diagnosis affect my personal and professional life? And I can just say that having to be scheduled for that surgery, and not knowing that it was cancer at the time, it's when you go through something like that, it's not that it's difficult, but it's kind of how it affects other people. So I was literally scheduled to go on. It was going to be my first deployment to one of the places. It was either Iraq or Afghanistan. I don't even remember which one it was. But because I had to go through that surgery, they had to take me off of that deployment and put somebody else on it, somebody else that I knew, and obviously somebody in my career field. So before I forget, I wanted to make sure and say, that's one of the ways that it affects you. Okay, but anyways, I'll go back. And so I had the surgery. I had it removed before we even knew what it was. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the dangers of having something like this removed before knowing what it was. I'm probably lucky that they took it out before they knew what it was, because one of the things is, before, without them taking a look at it. Okay. Because what they would do is they probably would have, if they had thought that it was a cancer at all, they probably would have done a biopsy. Okay, and what that is just they go in, take a piece of it, and then check it out and see what it actually is. But because they didn't do that, they went in and they just they took it out. And the weird thing about this type of my particular tumor was, it was just on its own. It wasn't attached to anything. It was just there, and it was growing. So I remember talking to the doctor, and he said he thought he was going to have to take my tailbone and all this other stuff. He said he went in there, he opened me up, and it just came out. he just was able to pull it out. So so back to about getting that biopsy.
So this was done before. I just want to be clear. So this was done before they even had the diagnosis of what stage.
What it was.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And this is something that comes up in the discussions. So I'm a part of a couple of sarcoma support groups on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the things a lot of people always ask: is there anybody who had surgery prior to knowing what it is? Because it entails a couple of different things. So so anyway, back to getting a biopsy. The thing with this type of cancer, if somebody had if they had done the biopsy, that there's always a danger of, you do the biopsy and then cells from the cancer, from the tumor, will be cut loose, and then they'll be free floating in your body. And but what you want is something that's just encapsulated. So that's one of the things that I was lucky for. They didn't do a biopsy, and so it just decreased the odds that the cancer would be spread through the biopsy itself. So so I'll take a step back. This is October, and and I had the tumor removed. The doctor was like, it was a little harder than I thought it was going to be, because he thought it was just a fluid-filled sac. It's a little harder than I thought it would be. So he said I sent it in for biopsy. Okay, so I'm talking diagnosis now. After the surgery, Vivian and I've been my wife. We already had a vacation scheduled, so in Hawaii, and I was literally still recovering from my surgery. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember exactly how many days after the surgery it was, but I couldn't walk very well, and I was on convalescent leave. And I wasn't even sure that I could go on vacation while I was on convalescent leave, but went through all the steps I had to do, and we were able to go. So I went to Hawaii, and while I was in Hawaii, the doctor called and said, "Hey, can you come into to the office?"
Wow.
And when you get that call when they're saying, "Hey, you need
that's
to
not
come
the
in,"
call you want. Yeah,
it ain't good,
Yeah.
So he didn't tell me over the phone. He said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Doc, I'm in Hawaii." He said, "Okay, well, just enjoy your time there." He said, "As soon as you get back, come into the office."
Okay.
So so I had to go through the rest of my vacation, just knowing that there was something he was going to tell me.
Yeah,
and I just assumed that's what it was. I was like, okay, he was wrong. It's a cancer. So so the main thing, I get back from vacation, we go, and he says it's myxoid liposarcoma.
Mm-hmm.
And another question that I get asked is what was your response when you found out? How did you feel when you found out? A lot of folks really go into a depression and start to because it is a difficult obviously thing to experience. Somebody tell you that you have cancer.
Right.
And me and Vivian were sitting there, and he said myxoid liposarcoma, and honestly, I started laughing because of the name. I was some part of me was glad that it had such a weird name, because I was like, what? Myxoid. I'd never heard of anything like it, and I didn't know that it was a cancer at the time. So anyways, from there it was about what were my options. So my doctor, being a surgeon and not a specialist on sarcoma, all he could do at that point was to refer me. But I never went into the what do you call it? Never went into depression or asking why me. It just kind of, I don't know. I mean, I could talk about how I take things in like that.
Yeah. Well, but, I guess let me interject and let me interject and let me bring Eric in and ask. So, how was the conversation when you started telling your immediate family? Right. So when you picked up the phone and you called Eric, what was that conversation like? And then Eric, I guess if you could tell us, from a external caregiver, from a brother, from a family member, what was kind of the reaction that you had, and what kind of moves did you make?
Well, he didn't have to go through depression, because I probably went through it for him. I was in a complete denial. I'm like, he knows I don't trust doctors, and the worst thing you can ever hear is that your baby brother, has this, sarcoma, and it wasn't good for me. It wasn't, it was hard for me to take in. It was hard. It was hard. It was hard. It's still hard, right?
We hear you, brother. We hear you. So Sonny, again, as you were talking with folks, and as you were telling folks of your diagnosis early on, you were on vacation in Hawaii. What were kind of the next thing that you did after you left your vacation, coming back to the States, having that next meeting with your care physicians? What were the courses of action that they took you through?
Okay, so the first things were my surgeon put me in contact with the so this is Madigan. This is the military hospital, it's not on McCord Air Force Base, it's on the Army base next door, and they have oncologists. Oncologists are the doctors that deal with cancer, and they basically gave me my options. And that's literally the first thing. They try to get you in contact with an oncologist as soon as possible, and all you can do is go, okay, these are my options, and you kind of got to choose one or choose none. My options there were radiation or chemotherapy, and I don't know that they actually gave me any specifics with as far as chemotherapy, so that they were not sarcoma specialists. So it's just you got a cancer, these are the options. These are the chemotherapy options that you have. So on the advice of one of my family friends who's a doctor, she said, you should get a second opinion, because this is, it's not a decision that you can take lightly. So and by the way, one of the things I definitely want to pass on, and one of my messages is when or if you do become a patient, or if you have a family member who becomes a patient, we have to advocate for ourselves. I've got several stories of when I was going through radiation, I was having to go to my appointments. At the time, Vivian didn't have the ability to skip work, and it helped me with my appointments at that time. Plus, the doctors told me that as far as the radiation that I was going to require, I was going to be able to continue working, throughout the whole time that I was getting my treatment. Well, 2 weeks in, I could barely walk. I was walking, I was inching my way through the parking lot to my appointments. And if anybody knows how big Madigan is, it's massive, So you park. First of all, you can't get any parking up close, and second of all, it's the building itself is just massive. So I was parking far away, and then I was inching my way through the parking lots to the back side of the building, to get to my appointments. And I realized about 4 weeks in that the doctors they didn't necessarily see me doing that. They didn't see me doing that. So one day I said, "Hey doc, you think it'd be possible for me to get a placard for my car, where I can park in the handicap, parking?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh yeah, sure." And I was like, "Okay, doc, you think it'd be possible for me to get some crutches?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's no problem. I'll get them issued to you." So
yeah, that should have been a given instead of you, exactly, the patient. Right? You've already got stress on your mind and on your body, as opposed. So now I definitely understand, and I wanted you to verbalize that so folks understand when you say advocate for yourself, right? Yeah, get that second opinion, get that third opinion, whatever, but own your medical treatment, own your meetings with all of your specialists and things of that. So yeah, keep going. It just struck me that, again, they didn't already give you the sign for the car or the crutches or whatever you needed. Yeah.
We can't be sure what our doctors are taking in. They've got so many patients that they go through. That they might not have noticed that I was inching my way into the into the waiting room. But anyways, So I definitely wanted to get that out. So my doctor friend said get a second opinion, and I wanted to pass on one of the things that she said. She said any doctor worth their salt would recommend that you get a second opinion. So if you have a doctor that says, you say, "Hey, I'd like to get a second opinion," and they get offended by that, that should be a red flag. And I just want to point that out. Okay. So anyways, my doctor, being who he was actually really great. He said, "Who would you like to get a second opinion through?" I told him, and he actually set it up. Next thing I knew, I had a second opinion. So unfortunately, the second opinion was radiation or chemotherapy.
Again, the two therapies, the two options that we talked about earlier. Okay.
That were available at that time, So it was, and actually, so I went to a place called SCCA, Seattle Cancer Care Alliance, and it wasn't just chemotherapy. They were going to put me on 3 different chemotherapies, and at the same time, and I was going to be an inpatient 5 days a week, and for like, well, pretty much until something happened. You know what I'm saying? Until my scans showed good or bad or indifferent, whatever. So I went back to Madigan. I got the radiation, 6.5 weeks of radiation. Just for time's sake, I won't get into a whole lot of what that entailed, but I will say that it was definitely. I'm not a fan of radiation. it was not a lot of fun.
Understood.
Burn skin. Yeah. So anyways, maybe later I'll get into that, because I could speak on that for a long time.
Right. Let me pose this question that came up from someone watching right now, good friend of ours as well. And do you think you were exposed to anything doing some of those overseas or even here, right, in any deployments?
Absolutely, I'd love to talk about that. So. And again, one of the questions that I get asked a lot is, how did you get it? And especially for sarcomas right now, there isn't a lot of information on what causes sarcoma. It could be trauma, So you get hit. So a lot of sarcomas actually show up in people's thighs, the legs, and their arms, their extremities. By the way, it's also it's more common in kids and younger people.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. I've had several exposures to things. So I don't know if people are familiar with in Okinawa. There are the school that I went to actually had they found barrels of contamination waste underneath the playgrounds where I used to play.
Yeah.
So and that's an ongoing issue that they're talking about. I think they've got it all cleaned up, but it's still the fact that so many children were exposed back then. And so I thought to myself, maybe it could be that. But then, I look around at all my friends, all my family, other people who were on that same playground as me, and I don't know anybody else who's gone through anything like this, and so I tend to say that it probably wasn't that. And then there's Camp Lejeune. I don't know if anybody knows about. I was I was in Okinawa when that stuff happened. So the Camp Lejeune, there's the water in Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, and that's a continuing thing that people are asking questions about and finding more information about. I was there during the time where but then again, I look at my family, I look at my friends, and I think to myself, I don't know anybody, personally who's going through that stuff, but we were there, during that time. Right. So maybe it could have been that. And then I think about my I think about a little bit about traumas, in karate class and kids being kids. I've been kicked. So my tumor was appeared in my pelvic region. So I was thinking to myself, I've been kicked down there a few times, maybe it's something like that. But everybody gets kicked down there. So, and then I think about my Air Force career, and I think about the things that I was exposed to. I was very vigilant about my PPE. They call it personal protective equipment. So I always protected my eyes, my ears. I made sure I didn't have exposure to the chemicals and stuff that I worked with. But there were a few things that I know that, and I won't get into those, but that I know that we didn't necessarily know the effects of some of the things that I've been exposed to, and I know now that there are more things in place to help protect the people who are doing the same job that I used to do back then. So I could talk about what I think it is specifically, but I'll do that later.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. I mean, you think about it, you're listening to cable TV late night or whenever, and you hear all of these adverts now about, were you ever in your previous time at job exposed to this, call this law for, because again,
Yeah.
now some of that research is coming out, the roundups, the asbestos, things of that nature, right? Which everyone kind of used just on a regular recurring basis, but really the effects and the toll on the body internally, no one knew about it at that, or it wasn't much addressed, I think, as it
Yeah.
probably is now. So unfortunately, some of those things may be affecting more and more individuals. Interesting. So let's keep going. Let's move on. I want to ask you this. You participated in a number of treatments, and we've talked about your conscious decision, as we called it, to look for a natural cure. Tell us a little bit about that journey and what that really means.
Okay. So basically, what that means is I was probably like a lot of people. Essentially afraid of the treatments that they have for cancer. Chemotherapy. I wanted to avoid that as much as possible. If it was at all possible, I just didn't want to do it. So, and I'd been doing research on on YouTube and seeing these people who they put their videos out and they were hey, I was cured by with this or that. And it's obviously very intriguing. I remember one video. There was a woman who said she'd cured herself with what's called RSO. It's Rick Simpson oil, and
Okay.
What that is it's like CBD. It's cannabinoid. Basically.
More to help with pain, because I do know some other cancer patients who are using CBD products,
Yeah,
products,
absolutely.
mainly to help with the pain of the
Absolutely.
subsequent chemotherapy.
I suggested it helped me through a lot of stuff. So what I used was Rick Simpson oil. It was something that I got through a dispensary that was owned by a family friend.
Okay.
And I can't thank him enough for doing that for me. But well, I mean, I was I bought it, so
Yeah.
but he definitely allowed me to get access to it and try it. At the time they were still it was just newly allowed, here in the state. Washington,
Right.
marijuana laws and stuff like that are now it's legal. So
Right.
anyways, I was trying it, and I don't. So that was one of the things that I tried. I don't necessarily believe that it didn't work. It didn't work for me, but it was. I can't say that it was because it doesn't work. I can only say that I never found the amount that worked for me, and it was very difficult to tell what was actually, and I don't want to say what was in it, but so when people talk about curing yourself with stuff like that, they say, oh, well, you should have this much or that, and it was very difficult to figure out how much you were getting of what. There are a lot of different compounds, or at least 2 different compounds when you use something like that, and getting someone with expertise or finding someone with expertise on getting exactly how much you're going to need for your specific case is very difficult. So I can say that it didn't work for me. I wouldn't tell anybody not to use it, but I would say that give it a try and try to research as much as you can. How much you need. And also just a lot. What I realized was a lot of videos that I'd seen were of different types of cancer, and sarcoma is a different beast. There just isn't a lot of information out there. So anyways, I tried that. Tried Rick Simpson oil. I also tried a thing called turkey tail. There is actually a lot of information on how that can help. It's a type of mushroom, and you can buy it right off the counter. And I can say that I tried that, and that didn't work for me. So over a period, after I was NED for that time, there were a couple of years after that I was trying these different things, and the whole time I was NED, I was getting scans every 3 months, and so I can say that after trying those things, it still it was still growing. Now I can say that the my tumors were growing slowly, and that's not necessarily the case with this type of tumor. There are a lot of stories that I read where it's very aggressive, and I like to think that taking those things helped to slow it at least.
Okay. And again, from a definition perspective, I touched on it at the beginning. The NED, no evidence of disease, correct?
I lost the question.
No, I was just clarifying the statement NED, and that again, that's the no evidence of disease, correct?
That is correct. That's correct.
Okay. You're about to partake on a new trial therapy, right?
Yeah.
And more focused on. Let me let you talk about it, right? Again, working with your immune system, working with your T cells, things of that nature. Talk to us a little bit about what. Really probably what the next couple of days you're about to go and start participating in. So talk to us a little bit about this next phase of your treatment in terms of how you're going to look to work through this.
Yeah. So very shortly, I'm gonna be starting a new trial. It's called SPEAR-T. I actually haven't said that to memory, but I think it's in your the intro picture that shows exactly what that stands for. It is an immunotherapy, which basically means it's working with your own immune system, and basically strengthening your immune system. It's introducing your immune cells to the cancer cells that they should be fighting against, and it's just very exciting. And I want to take another step back and talk a little bit about there you go, specific peptide enhanced affinity receptor T cell. That's a long thing, but
say that 3 times backwards.
So I'll take a step back and talk about a little bit about advocacy again. And okay, so I've had a couple of surgeries. I hadn't talked about that, but my first surgery when they took it out, I didn't know what they do with the tumors themselves when they take it out. Right. But in my case, when getting my second opinion through the Seattle Cancer Care Alliance, that they're on top of things, and I really appreciate the care that I've been given there. They even though initially I did not go with them, they sent me some paperwork that said, "Hey, can we get some of the tumor tissue? What this will do, this isn't going to help you at all, but it's going to help us to start to do our research into this. We're doing research on sarcoma, and again, I just want to show my appreciation for them doing research in this, and your cells could help us with that." All right, so I was like, I don't care what they do with it. If it can help somebody else, then that's great. So so I signed the paperwork to have them do it. Now, keep in mind that was back in 2010. So what were the options in 2010? Chemo and radiation. Yeah. So I'd like to think that that's 10 years ago. They were doing research. They were beginning their research. I like to think that it was my cells that led to the breakthroughs that they're having right now. You know what I mean?
Like that.
So, yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Keep talking.
Yeah. Even though they say this isn't to help you, if I could hold on, if I could, throughout that whole 10 years, I had been doing what I could. I've been trying to eat better. I've been trying to do the treatments, the natural treatments, and cutting back on things that I shouldn't be eating and drinking, to preserve myself for a time when something new was going to come around, and I've been hearing, things over the years. I've been hearing about these breakthroughs and stuff. CAR T. Spear T is basically CAR T. If you haven't heard of CAR T, it's when I first saw it on TV, it's like I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is curing. This is really curing people of cancer, and so that's why my excitement about this Spear T is so high. But anyways, when I was done, so I'd gone through chemotherapy and immunotherapies, different immunotherapies. I've gone through two different ones, and they as you get your scans, you find out whether it's working or not. And both of them over the last going on 4 years, they kept me stable for a while, but then they seemed to stop working. And so it was February when the last one, it seemed like it stopped working. The tumors, not that they had grown that much, but there were signs that something was happening. There was something that was happening within my primary tumor. So they took me off of it, and it was this was February, and they said, okay, we'll test you and see if you're eligible for this new trial, this Spear T thing. There was a couple of different things that they were checking me out for, a couple of different trials, but this is the one that I wanted.
Okay.
Just because of what I'd heard about it. Anyways, oh shoot, where was I? So they were checking me out for it, and they had to make sure that I had these specific cells, that the tumor was expressing this certain thing. They had to make sure there were two different things, and they didn't know whether I was going to be eligible for it. And both those tests came back, and they said, "Yep, you got them." That's what we made this trial for. So would you like to move forward with this trial? And I said, heck yeah. Awesome. So that was February, and then March rolled around, and
the world stopped.
COVID-19 popped up, and everything stopped. Yeah, because you know why. Right. So I had stopped chemo, and I think my last treatment was actually in January. I think I was scheduled for my last for an immunotherapy in February, early February, and when I came in, they said, the tumor board said that it looks like it's not, looks like the trial's not working anymore, so we have to take you off of it. So he took me off of it. So I hadn't had chemo or immunotherapy since February, March.
Wow. Okay.
April, May, June. It's scary when you've gone years, and I like to say, in defense of chemo, as much discomfort as it can cause. I mean, it's kept me alive for these last 4 years. So being off of it was kind of a scary prospect, and so I was pushing, I was contacting the doctor every time I could, to see, when this trial was going to begin. It was going to get restarted. And so it wasn't until June that we were actually able to start talking about it. They got me in for what's called apheresis. One of the things that's kind of scary about this trial is the apheresis. They've got to take blood out. They take your immune cells from that blood, and then simultaneously they pump the blood back in on your other arm. So you're sitting there with both your arms. One arm you can't move. I couldn't move my right arm, and then my left arm was just a regular IV. And you got to sit there for 4 to 6 hours. For me, it was a little over 4 hours, and where they take your cells. After they take your cells, they send those cells off to a company that manipulates your immune cells. It takes them about a month. They show the immune cells the cancer that you wanted to kill, and then they multiply those immune cells, millions of cells. They freeze them, they send them back, and then they pump it back into you. So another part of it is the so a couple of issues that they have with this trial, or a couple of things that they found with it. When they pump these cells back into you, your immune system can go overboard. So because you got the cancer cells inside, and they're going straight. As soon as they pump it in, it's going straight to kill those cancer cells. That can it can overwhelm the body. It's called the cytokine release syndrome, CRS, and it can in the trial it has caused people to go into comas. It has it has its own set of risks. To mitigate that risk, to bring down your to mitigate that risk, they will knock your immune system down a little bit. So it's weird because they're trying to pump up your immune system, but at the same time they've got to bring it down when they pump it into you, so that your immune system doesn't overwhelm your body. So prior to giving me my cells back, what they're going to do is they're going to put me on 2 different chemotherapies that are going to kind of knock my immune system down, so that it won't, so the new cells won't overwhelm my system. So and that's been working. They showed that to be able to work. And they also teach the nurses that are going to be helping me, what to look for, what's going to happen if, or what they can do if I do start to go into the CRS is what they call it. So they have protocols to keep me safe. But most of the people that did go through that, they were able to keep safe, and then they came out, and literally they'd come out of their comas with they become completely cured. I mean, it was crazy.
At least very much better numbers than they came in with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's literally. Well, I don't really want to get into the numbers because I don't know them off the top of my head, but the numbers look good.
I'm the numbers guy for you today. So the link that I'm showing at the bottom there is actually a YouTube video from the primary organization that is leading this SPEAR T cell research. So I highly recommend folks that are watching to go take a look at that. It's definitely explained from a layman's terms everything that Sonny was talking about, what he's prepping for and what he's going to be doing, and what kind of those tactics and remediation and things of that nature that he's going to be going through after the treatment. But so let me ask you this: how many times do you have to go through that treatment itself? Is it just a one shot? Figuratively speaking, is it just one shot, or is it multiple situations?
Yeah, that's one of the things that kind of drew me to it as well, because you get they pump it into you, and then they just watch it. They watch the cells. It's a one-time thing. They give it to you, and then you just wait. So the typical protocol is once you get a treatment, they let you stew for about 3 months, and then they give you a scan and they see how the tumors react, and it's one time, and then the tumors are gone or they're significantly decreased. Now, having said that, basically, so it's like a year that they'll watch you afterwards, and there have been other people who've had the treatment for a year, and then they didn't have a complete response where everything was gone, and so they are able to give it to you again. They're still working on that protocol. On what works best. They're still working on that. So I know that there's one person who's been through the treatment, had a really good response, but a year later still had some cancer, some tumors, but still doing way better. And this person was actually able to go back to work. She wasn't able to work prior to, and had to go through another cycle. So far, it's like, to my knowledge, that didn't it didn't take as well as the first time, but I know that they're researching that, and it's always going to be specific to the person.
True.
Everybody's bodies and tumors are going to react
Yeah.
differently.
I'm glad you brought
But
that
I do
up.
know
Yeah.
that that person is still doing well and better than before, obviously.
Amazing. So I want to do something. I want to pull myself off of the screen, and I want to have you and Eric kind of talk about now, right? So this next evolution, this next stage. So Eric, I know I'm putting you on the spot. But again, I mean, this is promising news, right? I mean, this new trial, this next step that Sonny's going into. So I mean, again, and we kind of broached on it a little bit earlier, but how is the young brother gonna be there when in the midst of this, and what are your thoughts about Sonny going through this trial procedure as well? I mean, are you in agreement? Have you obviously you've done some research as well, and you're aware of kind of what the pros and the cons and negatives and the pluses and things of that are. Just I guess give us your immediate gut reaction to kind of everything Sonny's getting ready to go through and in this new. I'm not gonna pull you off screen this time if you get emotional, man, because I think we need to hear the story, brother.
Yeah, and I apologize. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I apologize for being emotional, but it's a very, 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 very tough thing. Like I said, he's our baby brother, and just to hear him talk and explain this, does it help a little? Yeah, maybe, but the fact of the matter, I would trade places with him because he's brave, and I'm the older brother. I'm supposed to be having this brave front for him, and he's the brave front for me. I apologize for cussing. I'm very proud of you, man. I'm proud of you, and it has been tough for me. I know you're explaining it and letting me know that that it's okay. It's gonna be okay. And trust me, man. I'm not as religious, but I'm praying. I want you to be okay.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I've said it before that. I kind of feel like I speak for most people who are going through what I'm going through. And I'm obviously not everybody, but most. I'd say we feel like it's harder on the people that we love than it is on us. You know what I mean? I've been so blessed throughout this entire experience. I thank goodness for my wife. She has always been there for me by my side. She's been to every single appointment that since I started the chemo stuff. And actually, once I started having issues, toward the end with the radiation, she was there for every single appointment. I've had someone by my side throughout the entire experience. And as you go through it, it's like I've got somebody telling me what to do. It's like you sit down. I'm gonna hook you up. We're gonna do. We know what we're doing, and all you got to do is sit there. And that's kind of been my experience. You know what I mean? I remember joining the Air Force. It was like I lived from meal to meal. It didn't matter what they put me through. It was like I was just waiting for when I woke up. I was like, oh, it's breakfast. And then whatever we did, it was like, oh man, I'm just looking forward to lunch. And I savored those moments. You know what I mean? It's just like it's always having a mindset of it's almost like working out. It's like I've got you've got your timer on, and it's like I've got a 1 minute. I can do anything for 1 minute. You know what I mean? So that was one of the things that working out. That's what you do. It's like I've got to keep on. I've got to push this out until just 60 seconds. And this has been the same thing. It's been like I've just got to put up with this treatment until the next thing. And so it's like oh, I get my next scan, and every time it's been like it's like and I know this isn't the case for every time, but it's been I made it through, and I'm blessed that I was able to do that. I'm blessed that I've got people who know what they're doing. I'm blessed that I've got somebody who's who's by my side and to to help me get through this. And it's harder for the people that we love, especially for me, for Vivian, because she's got to watch me go through all the pain and suffering. I do want to say that there's a lot of pain. I'm in pain every day from various different things, but it helps that I've got people who are on my side, who are watching out for me, who are even just praying for me, because I do believe that prayer and positive thought, it helps. I've seen a lot of people who haven't had that type of support.
You have to go through it alone.
They have to go through it alone, and I just think to myself, that's they're really my inspiration. Also, the people who are able to to go through this, and I don't know how they could do it. So.
And the weirdest thing, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like the weirdest thing is that, you really kind of followed my footsteps when, when I was in the Air Force. I worked as an aircraft mechanic. And you're talking about PPE. I've gone in a fuel cell without a mask thinking I'm going to put this screw in. It's only taking 5 minutes, being there 10 minutes with no PPE on, And JP4, that's probably cancerous. But
yeah, definitely.
But sometimes you make stuff like this, when it hits so close to home, it makes you really, really, really appreciate the people in your life, the people in your life, the people that you love. If I could tell anybody, just cherish those moments, because you never know. It's a scary. This is probably, me and James do shows all the time, podcasts, red carpets, but this is probably the toughest show I've ever had to do.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Sonny, I will say that as you were talking, and I put a handful of them on the screen, right? You already know this, but right, the support system that you have had, current, past, and future, is enormous, right? You've got immediate family, extended family, friends, things of that nature. So I'm the research that I've done on these treatments that you're about to go through. Heck, I'm optimistic, incredibly. I believe exactly what you said. That's why I asked you to repeat it. The stuff that you sent them 10 years ago, brother, is the stuff that they're going to use to definitely knock this out, or definitely at least knock it down for you. So
yeah, I think so.
So let's stay in touch as you go through this. As want to be completely respectful to your privacy and respectful to your family and the things that you're about to partake in, but would love to have a follow-on conversation with you about the progress, the steps necessary, because I think that there's healing in having the conversation. I think, right? I think this kind of, as I was saying on the pre-show, this definitely benefits, I think, you by having this conversation. But I didn't sleep well last night because I was, as Evie is saying, I was so anxious and really wanted to have this dialogue. And this is actually more therapeutic for us as it is for you. So, brother, with that being said, Sonny, I appreciate you for coming on. Eric, I appreciate you for coming on as well and sharing your thoughts and your story, enlightening us on both of your perspectives. As you step through this next stage of your treatment, as I say, keep us informed. I'll post the show notes with relevant resources that people can look at and learn more about sarcoma and this treatment. I'll post that YouTube video so folks can actually see that. It walks through a very interesting animation of, again, that whole process of manipulating the cells and how the expected outcome is.
Yeah, it's good.
With that, with that being said, brother Sonny, you got anything you want to say in closing?
Yeah. So there's just a few things. I wanted to give thanks to you for considering me for this. This is one of the things I didn't mention. This is something that I've wanted to do. I've wanted to, and I spoke with Chris about my other brother, about wanting to put a sort of a video series together to try to help other people. One of the things that anybody who's going through what I'm going through, and this is going to help me, I think, and I hope to be able to kind of organize my thoughts around doing that. Oh, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, I wanted to say that I had some questions from some of my Facebook friends. I tried to kind of put some of those answers in, but I know that there were a lot that I didn't get to, and hopefully I'll be able to get to that, or maybe add some of those questions to, or some of the answers to those questions. And I don't know if we'll have this video available for them to watch and put some of that stuff inside there.
Definitely.
But I did want to thank the people who did post some questions for me to answer. I apologize for not getting to them, but I was a lot more nervous. Like you said, you couldn't sleep last night. I couldn't sleep.
Right.
Oh my gosh! And I thought I was prepared, but there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot that I didn't get to, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to get this started. This is the way I see it, only the beginning, and I do hope to be able to have a follow up and show you, talk about my progress after I get the treatment, and be able to share that as well. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it.
Definitely, brother. Definitely, brother. Appreciate that. Yeah, and I think this will also turn into a great series that I think we need to have on the channel, because this the whole mantra of infotainment news is timely, relevant news of the day, and this is no more timely. This is no more relevant than anything else that we're talking about. Eric, what about you, brother? You got anything you want to say in closing?
I just want to say, hey, thank you for sharing, man. I love you. I'm always here. Just let me know, and I know I need to reach out more, but I want to be cognizant of your time and what you're going through. So I'm always here, always here. Love you.
No worries, love you too, man. I don't reach out as much as I ought to, but again, that's the same considerations for you and family. I don't want to burden you guys too much. I'm in good hands. I've got a great support system, and I know you guys are pulling for me, and I appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. Infotainment News. Again, I will post the relevant information after this show on the site so we can interact and engage. I saw a couple of folks that were leaving comments that want to actually reach out to you, Sonny, right? Just to have a conversation, because they're in a similar situation. So again, we're starting some of that dialogue right now. We're starting the healing. We're starting the conversation for folks. So that being said, folks, thank you. Appreciate you. God bless.
Forevermore.